Okay, we talked in the last video about religion as a scapegoat mechanism for Girard, and what that essentially is collective persecution, collective victimization, which enables a society to purge its violence. It's a cathartic mechanism to control and purge its violence and unleash that violence on one individual, on a scapegoat, on one or sometimes a group of people, but whatever. That impulse to form a mob and to form social cohesion against a victim now who the society doesn't know that they're victimizing. This is all unconscious. Matter of fact, people who are victimizing, the mob lynchers, think that person is guilty. Think of a witch hunt, for example. Okay, that's the religious impulse. That's retold, those stories in mythology. For example, Oedipus. Oedipus in the story is guilty. He's guilty of killing his dad and marrying his mom. Um, and he's the cause of the plague in Thebes. He's the cause of societal ills. So they're doing the mythologists are the collective persecutors. They think they're doing the right thing, right? Now Girard says mythology and religion is often told in primitive religions from the perspective of the persecutors, from the perspective of the victimizers. What if we had um, a story, a myth, told not from the perspective of the persecutors, but the perspective of the victims? What if the victims survived, or somehow they were enlightened to their story survived, their story of victimization and persecution survived? And Girard thinks we do have one particular people who tell the story from the victim's perspective, and those people are the Jewish people. Judaism, for Girard, is a deconstruction of mythology and a kind of revelation, the beginnings of the revelation of the scapegoat mechanism. You have in the book of Genesis the story of Cain and Abel, where Cain murders Abel, and Abel is innocent, right? He murders him out of jealousy and rivalry. There you have the illumination of mimetic desire. You have the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, and who his brothers are jealous of him. They have mimetic envy, right? Because of the conflicts. And what do? They persecute their brother Joseph, or Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Potiphar was like a father figure to Joseph. He worked for him, and Potiphar's wife uh, tries to sleep with Joseph, and Joseph says no, and what happens? She lies, and Potiphar kicks Joseph out and puts him in prison. It's a kind of anti-Oedipal story there, Joseph and Potiphar's wife. So the Hebrew Bible for Girard is the beginning of the deconstruction of mythology. That is the deconstruction of collective persecution, the shedding light on collective persecution. The Jewish people are saying, wait a minute, scapegoats are innocent. Before, mythology couldn't see its own victimization. With Judaism comes the revelation of the deconstruction of collective persecution, and therefore the revelation of what religion is. This is what Girard thinks Judaism's contribution is. The Jewish people say, look, religion has been all about scapegoating. Finally, then, for Girard, this reaches a climax with Christianity, where you have explicitly the idea of scapegoating, and God comes down and human beings scapegoat.